Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Ukraine claims a massive drone attack on Russian air bases. Moscow calls Ukrainian attacks in 5 regions as a terrorist act as both sides gear up for talks in Istanbul today. Several people suffer burn injuries in Colorado. FBI calls it a terror attack against demonstrators seeking the release of Israeli hostages. One person taken into custody. India's global outreach on Operation Sindoor continues. All party delegations engaged with key figures in multiple nations, highlighting India's continued fight against terrorism. President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña Palacios, to arrive in India for the first time, will hold talks with Prime Minister Modi and to review the entire gamut of bilateral ties. Multiple deaths reported after floods, landslides devastate northeast India as monsoon arrival spells mayhem. Weatherman predicts more thunderstorms and rainfall across Delhi and the national capital region. And in sports, Shreyas Iyer powers Punjab Kings into IPL 2025 finals with statement win against Mumbai in the qualifier 2. On the eve of peace talks, Ukraine and Russia sharply ramped up the conflict with one of the biggest drone battles since February 2022. At least 7 people were killed and 69 were injured when a highway bridge in Russia's Bryansk region neighboring Ukraine was blown up over a passenger train heading to Moscow with 388 people on board. Ukraine attacked Russian nuclear-capable long-range bombers at a military base deep in Siberia on Sunday. Ukraine's domestic intelligence service, the SBU, acknowledged it, carried out the attack and codenamed Operation Spider's Web, planned for more than a year and a half. As per Ukraine, a total of 41 Russian warplanes were hit. Russia launched 472 drones at Ukraine overnight and also launched 7 missiles. After the attacks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed delight over the drone attack.
Brilliant operation was conducted on the enemy's territory, against military targets only, against equipment that was used to deliver strikes at Ukraine. Russia has had very tangible losses.
Ukrainian aviation expert Valery Romanenko called Ukraine's drone attack on Russian air bases a black day for Russian aviation.
Russians will now try to replace the aviation component with ground-based systems. For example, the Iskander ballistic missile. They may also use MiG-31 planes, which can carry the supersonic Kinzhal missiles and have not yet been attacked. They may use them. They will use ballistic Iskanders, and there is also a cruise missile version of the Iskander. They can launch both ballistic and cruise Iskander missiles from the same platform. They also have leftovers from the Russian Black Sea Fleet. The Black Sea Fleet, which has not yet been sunk.
Meanwhile, Russian delegation arrived on Sunday evening in Istanbul, Turkey, ahead of a second round of peace talks. Ukraine's defense minister, Rustem Umerov, would meet Russian officials for talks on Monday. The first round of the talks, more than a week ago, yielded the biggest prisoner exchange of the war, but no sense of any consensus on how to halt the fighting. Amid talk of peace, though, there was much war. The two sides will, in Turkey, present their respective documents outlining their ideas for peace terms, though it is clear that after 3 years of intense conflict, In June last year, Putin set out his opening terms for an immediate end to the war. That is, Ukraine must drop its NATO ambitions and withdraw all of its troops from the entirety of the territory of 4 Ukrainian regions claimed and mostly controlled by Russia. Amid the build-up to talks, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also spoke to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday regarding the peace talks. The U.S. State Department noted that the call was at Russia's request. Rubio reiterated U.S. President Donald Trump's call for continued direct talks between Russia and Ukraine to achieve a lasting peace. A proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, is being worked out from all sides for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. In a joint statement, Egypt and Qatar said on Sunday that they are continuing efforts to converge views and overcome disagreements to reach a Gaza ceasefire. Hamas also expressed its readiness to immediately start a round of indirect negotiations to reach an agreement on points of contention. More than 30 Palestinians were killed and nearly 170 were injured on Sunday in South Gaza near a food distribution site, as per its health ministry. It also said that Israeli soldiers fired on people trying to collect aid and Israel denied it. But the US-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation denied the incident and said that the food was handed out without incident on Sunday at the distribution point in Rafah and there were no deaths or injuries. The foundation released undated video to support its statement that showed dozens of people gathering around piles of boxes. While the Israel Defense Forces released drone footage purportedly showing Hamas gunmen firing at the crowds, asserting that the incident was a deliberate effort to sabotage humanitarian efforts. Israel's military said that findings from an initial inquiry indicated that soldiers had not fired on civilians while they were near or within the aid distribution site. Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said that the Israeli government's refusal to allow a delegation of Arab ministers into the occupied West Bank showed its extremism and rejection of peace. His statement came during a joint press conference in Amman with counterparts from Jordan, Egypt and Bahrain after they met as part of an Arab contact group that was going to meet Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah. An Israeli official said that the ministers intended to take part in a provocative meeting to discuss promoting the establishment of a Palestinian state. Bin Farhan's visit to the West Bank would have marked the first such visit by a top Saudi official in recent memory. An international conference, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia, is due to be held in New York on June 17 to 20th to discuss the issue of Palestinian statehood. Meanwhile, the Chilean President Gabriel Boric backed an arms embargo on Israel in his address to the Congress on Sunday. The 39-year-old leader said that he will introduce a law to ban imports from what he called illegally occupied territories and back efforts by Spain for an arms embargo against Israel. Boric, an outspoken critic of Israel, had recently recalled military personnel from Chile's embassy in the country and summoned the ambassador for questioning. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles met with his Singaporean counterpart Chan Chun Sing for talks on Sunday morning on the sidelines of the Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's premier security forum. The two ministers vowed to deepen defence cooperation, such as in the areas of science and technology. Marles also paid a courtesy call to Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong on Sunday. The Shangri-La Summit, which attracts top defence officials, senior military officers, diplomats, weapon makers and security analysts from around the globe, was held from Friday. Britain is boosting its military muscle with plans to expand its nuclear-powered attack submarine fleet ahead of a sweeping defence review. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is joining European leaders in response to US President Trump's call for the continent to take charge of its own security. Monday's strategic defense review will demand Britain's forces reach war-fighting readiness. Defence Minister John Healey confirmed up to 12 next-generation submarines will be built, replacing the current fleet from the late 2030s. While conventionally armed, they'll patrol alongside Britain's nuclear-armed subs. A £15 billion nuclear warhead program was also unveiled. Developed with allies under AUKUS, these subs signal Britain's bold new posture that is secure at home and formidable abroad. Around 1,000 people took part in a silent march across Liberty Bridge in Budapest on Sunday, with many taping their mouths shut to protest in a proposed bill targeting foreign-funded media and civil society groups. The demonstrators used the symbolic gesture to oppose the legislation. The bill, expected to come to a vote by June 10th, is supported by Prime Minister Viktor Orban's ruling Fidesz party, and it would allow the government to label and potentially shut down organizations receiving foreign support if deemed a threat to Hungary's interests or cultural identity. The proposal has faced strong criticism from media, think tanks and rights groups who see it as a move to suppress dissent, sparking several recent protests. In Serbia, hundreds of anti-government protesters filled one of Belgrade's main city traffic junctions, Gazela, blowing whistles, holding banners and chanting. The protest was organized and led by students who are demanding that those responsible for the roof collapse at a train station in Novi Sad in November that killed more than a dozen people be brought to justice. Students and civil organizations called for mass protests across 30 cities on Sunday. Daily rallies led by students spread across Serbia and became the biggest challenge to President Alexander Vucic's 12-year-long rule, with protesters denouncing widespread corruption and incompetence that led to the disaster. Britain has endorsed Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara, calling it the most viable path to peace in the decades-old conflict. Foreign Minister David Lammy, during a visit to Rabat, said that the UK would support the proposal politically and economically, aligning with the US and France as the third UN Security Council member to back Morocco's stand. The conflict pits Morocco against the Algeria-backed Polisario Front, which seeks independence. Morocco's foreign minister hailed the UK's support as historic and momentum-building. The two nations also signed major agreements in healthcare, infrastructure and innovation, laying the groundwork for British investment, especially as Morocco prepares to co-host the 2030 World Cup. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, stay with us for the latest political developments from Poland. Sudanese new Prime Minister dissolves the caretaker government even as the nation grapples with conflict between the army and paramilitary rapid support forces. And we'll also get you glimpses of the Grand Tomatena Colombia Food Fight Festival. Stay tuned. Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will speak soon to iron out trade issues, including a dispute over critical minerals, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday. Trump on Friday accused China of breaching a Geneva deal by withholding key exports. Besson warned China's actions hurt not just the US but also allies like India and Europe. While no call is scheduled, officials expect one imminently. White House advisor Kevin Hassett echoed that optimism, but Beijing hit back on Monday, fiercely denying any violation, calling US claims bogus and contrary to the facts. South Koreans will head to the polls on Tuesday to choose their next leader, following nearly 6 months of political turmoil, uncertainty and deep division. The candidates of the South Korean presidential election are making efforts to attract young voters through digital campaigns. With just days left until the ballot day, candidates are doing live streams and short-form video clips to reach out to the voters under 30, which comprises over 20% of the electorate. Polls indicate that Lee Jae-myung, the Democratic Party's presidential candidate, holds a substantial lead in the election, outpacing key rivals Kim Moon-soo of the People Power Party and Lee Jang-seok of the New Reform Party. This election seems more crucial since Korea has been teetering between temporary leaders for months while navigating Yoon's impeachment trial. North Korea has lashed out at a UN-backed sanctions monitoring group, calling its report on Pyongyang's military ties with Russia biased and politically driven. The multilateral sanctions monitoring team accused North Korea of fueling Russia-Ukraine conflict by supplying over 20,000 containers of munitions and enabling increased missile strikes. In return, Russia allegedly shared missile technology data. For North Korea's foreign ministry rejected the findings, calling the group a Western tool and its probe an outrageous encroachment on national sovereignty. Tensions escalated in April when North Korea confirmed troop deployment to aid Russia under a mutual defense pact. Pyongyang warned of serious consequences if Western powers continue what it calls provocative attempts to undermine its sovereign rights. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating a targeted terror attack where multiple people were set on fire on Sunday afternoon near Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. Many people were injured, one critically, when an attacker used an incendiary device on demonstrators who were marching to buoy awareness of hostages held by Hamas militants in Gaza. Witnesses said that the suspect threw Molotov cocktails that burned some of or all the victims who were part of the march for Israeli hostages. Police in Boulder said that a male suspect was taken into custody after the attack that left multiple people with burns. FBI
We're early in the
Special Agent
investigation, but some details have emerged. I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene and the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses.
So that was FBI Special Agent in charge of the Denver field office, Mark Michalek, who said that there were 6 victims aged between 67 and 88 years old who were transported to hospitals. He also named the suspect as Mohammed Solomon, aged 45. Solomon was hospitalized shortly after the attack. FBI Director Kash Patel said that the agency was aware of and was fully investigating the targeted terror attack. Patel described the incident as a targeted terror attack. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said that it appeared to be a hate crime given the group that was targeted, but Boulder Police Chief Redfern stressed that it was too soon to speculate about a motive. Liberal Warsaw Mayor Rafał declared a premature victory in Poland's election on Sunday after an exit poll showed him with a razor-thin lead. However, the mood among his supporters shifted from celebration to concern as later polls indicated that Conservative candidate Karol Nawrocki was likely to win. An exit poll by Ipsos for broadcasters TVN, TVP and Polsat showed Nawrocki of the ruling centrist Civic Coalition winning 50.3% of the ballots. Nawrocki, backed by nationalist Law and Justice, was at 49.7%. Official results were expected on Monday, with a late poll combining early results and exit surveys to be released overnight, though it has a 2-point margin of error. Speaking at an election night event for his supporters, he vowed to be a president for all Polish people.
I will unite, I will build, I will truly be the president of all Polish women and men. I will be a president. We'll make Poland great, prosperous for everyone to embark on this journey to the future. I promise you that.
Romania's defeated far-right candidate George Simeon joined the celebrations after a late poll showed nationalist Karol Nawrocki leading the presidential race. Simeon called the results a huge victory for Europe and Christianity.
It will be a huge victory for Europe and a huge victory for Christianity. We are very, very delighted that the Polish people didn't believe in the biggest campaign I ever saw of fake news. He was attacked, not only through normal campaign measures, by a whole apparatus coordinated at international level. Karol Nawrocki is a fighter, and he will fight for the Polish people, and we are very proud to stand alongside him.
Mexicans turned out to vote on Sunday in Mexico City in the country's first ever judicial elections, part of an overhaul of the nation's judiciary. The vote will elect 2,600 judges and magistrates, including all Supreme Court justices, and is part of a reform pushed by former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his protege and successor Sheinbaum. The Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum also voted on Sunday in Mexico City in the country's first ever judicial elections, part of an overhaul of the nation's judiciary. López Obrador and Sheinbaum say that the election will root out corruption in a flawed judiciary and instead allow people to decide who should be a judge. Sudan's new Prime Minister, Kamil Idris, has dissolved the caretaker government, the state news agency SUNA reported on Sunday, signaling a major shift amid conflict between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Appointed by Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Idris took office on Saturday, becoming Sudan's first Prime Minister since the 2021 military coup. With the RSF threatening to form a rival government, Idris promised neutrality and pledged to prioritize stability, security and rebuilding. The timing for the new government's formation remains unclear. In Bangladesh, Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus will hold the next phase of talks with political parties on Monday afternoon. All political parties engaged in the ongoing reform discussions have been invited to attend the talks. Informing media about the talks, the Deputy Press Secretary to the Chief Advisor said that more rounds of talks are expected to take place before and after Eid. The first round of discussions between political parties and the National Consensus Commission concluded on May 19th. Earlier on Sunday, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party leader Salahuddin Ahmed said that the interim government, led by Dr. Yunus, is simply showing banana in the name of reforms, while failing to take any concrete steps to ensure elections to be held within December. While speaking at a discussion in Dhaka, Salahuddin criticized the government for repeatedly inaugurating phases of reform discussions without any tangible progress. He also slammed the chief advisor for not delivering on a previous assurance that the election would be held within December. All right, DD India's Naval Singh Parmar joins us from Dhaka on phone line. Naval, good morning. We've just given a broad outline of the political developments in Dhaka, but political uncertainty still remains there, even as Professor Mohammed Yunus will be holding the next level of talks today afternoon. What more can you spell out?
Yes, the bone of contention here in Bangladesh between the interim government as well as the BNP and other political parties, not just BNP, is the roadmap for the upcoming election, general election in Bangladesh. When the Yunus administration took over the reign of Bangladesh in August 2024, afterward they said that election will be held by the December 2025. But then they and their party members and their some of the advisors, they are shifting the goalpost, and that smell by the BNP, and they are worried about the intention of the interim government regarding the next general election in Bangladesh. So BNP, since last 2 months, they are pressing very hard on Yunus administration to declare roadmap for the upcoming election. And the interim government as well as some of the supporter of interim government who are having a benefits with staying interim government, they are making loose statement regarding the election roadmap, and that is annoying the BNP as well as other political parties, including Left Democratic Alliance and the other Jatiya Party and the other political party like Jana Andolan, and even army also. Army chief also made it clear very well last week that the election should be held by December 2025, and some of the crucial decision like humanitarian corridor or handling over to the of the port of Chittagong should be taken by the elected government, not the interim government, because they are lacking the mandate of the people. So now the situation is politically tense, and BNP and other parties are pressing hard on Yunus administration to declare a roadmap, and part of that, Dr. Yunus has called for the next round of talks with the political party, and mainly that is the BNP.
All right, Naval Singh, you've talked about the political unrest and political uncertainty in Bangladesh, but how do you evaluate the situation given the the roadmap ahead for the December elections? What next after that? How is the nation poised at this time when we talk of the future, the immediate future?
Actually, it is difficult to say something on the political course or future course of Bangladesh. But one thing is sure, that if election held free and fair, then the there are many parties in Bangladesh. It is difficult for any political party to have a clear majority. Maybe they get or not, but then democracy will be strengthened if election timely, and if it is free and fair with the observation of international observer, and if the state machinery is not used by any political party, then democracy in Bangladesh will be definitely strengthened. There are few stakeholders, they wish to have control of power in their hand, but at the same time, many people in Bangladesh, I can feel the pulse of common people. They wish that the Bangladesh have a democratically elected government.
All right. Thank you so much, Naval Singh, for joining in with those details. And up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. A town in northern Colombia on Sunday turned one of its main streets into a massive slide, offering excitement for residents and tourists alike. Bucaramanga, a town of around 6,000 people in Norte de Santander region, has established June 1st on its annual calendar as the day when locals gather to build a giant slide. This event aims to draw visitors and promotes a positive image of the area worldwide. Thousands of people from around the world participated in La Tomatina, a famous Spanish festival held in Bunol, where participants engaged in a large-scale food fight by throwing overripe tomatoes at each other. The event is an annual tradition that takes place on Monday. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Prime Minister Modi to deliver keynote address at the 81st IATA summit, showcasing India's rising role in air travel. Aimed at strengthening economic ties between India and France, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal begins a 3-day visit to France. We also get you the drastic change in weather phenomena experienced in different parts of the country. Stay with us.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Global aviation leaders are in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and World Air Transport Summit hosted by Indigo. The event marks India's growing influence in aviation, with Prime Minister Modi set to deliver the keynote address.
The global aviation spotlight turns to India as the world's airline leaders gather in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and the World Air Transport Summit. Hosted by Indigo and held for the first time in India since 1983, this landmark event takes place from June 1st to 3rd, bringing together more than 1,700 participants, from CEOs and policymakers to media from around the world.
We have over 1,700 delegates from all across the world, includes airlines and many of the other players in the aviation ecosystem who are participating, delegates from over 100 countries. And IATA has also updated its reference to India. It is now the 3rd largest aviation market in the world.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the keynote address, underscoring the country's growing importance on the global aviation map. The World Air Transport Summit, following the AGM, will dive into the future of flight, addressing key issues like sustainability, innovation, and connectivity in an ever-changing world.
We're seeing the emergence of a stronger aviation sector in India. As I mentioned, on the back of emergence of stronger airlines within the country, the growth of connectivity, the growth of the network that Indians can connect to the rest of the world, to other parts of the country. All of that is significant, and we are also seeing significant increase in the airport infrastructure as well.
India's aviation industry is soaring. It supports nearly 370,000 direct jobs and contributes $5.6 billion to the economy. Add in tourism and indirect impact, and that number climbs to a staggering 7.7 million jobs and $53.6 billion, making up 1.5% of India's GDP.
As the global aviation industry charts its own course for the future, all eyes are on New Delhi. With a record partnership and high-level dialogue, India isn't just hosting the conversation, it's helping to lead it. From tradition to transformation, India welcomes the future of aviation here at the Bharat Mandapam. With camera person Anil Thakur, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
As part of India's continued efforts under Operation Sindoor and in line with India's principled and resolute stance against terrorism, 7 all-party delegations are conveying to the world India's strong message of zero tolerance towards terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. The all-party delegation, led by Member of Parliament Baijant Panda, met with Mohammad Kouane, Chairman of the Committee of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and the National Community Abroad in the Algerian Parliament on Sunday. The delegation discussed the need for strong and determined measures against terrorism. The delegation appreciated Algeria's unwavering pledge for justice. Another all-party delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Ravi Shankar Prasad met with UK's Shadow Foreign Secretary Preeti Patel and her team to share India's firm resolve in combating cross-border terrorism. They also highlighted how Operation Sindoor exemplifies the new normal set by India in this ongoing effort. The delegation also interacted with representatives of Indian diaspora at India House in London on Sunday. They reaffirmed India's united stance and unwavering commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and underlined the readiness of India to continue to decisively punish any and all acts of terror. The high-level delegation, led by Member of Indian Parliament Sanjay Kumar Jha, interacted at the India House with a 15-member National Defence College delegation from New Delhi, visiting a foreign country study tour to Malaysia. The delegation will, in fact, also interacted with SP Narayansamy, a veteran of the Indian National Army and a member of the Balak Sena of INA. The delegation expressed deep gratitude for his contribution. The multi-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Supriya Sule concluded their visit to Ethiopia on Sunday evening. The delegation in Addis Ababa had rich, intense and fruitful interactions with Ethiopian dignitaries, members of media, academia, civil society, think tanks, as well as the Indian community in Ethiopia. During the meetings, the Indian delegation conveyed in one voice India's zero-tolerance policy towards cross-border terrorism and briefed about developments since the heinous terror attack in Pahalgam. The Ethiopian side emphasized its own zero-tolerance policy against terrorism and stressed that terrorism must be condemned. The delegation appreciated the solidarity shown by Ethiopian leadership in the aftermath of Pahalgam attack and also thanked for the support. Multi-party Indian delegation led by Dr. Shrikant Shinde interacted with members of the Indian community in Liberia. The delegation members conveyed the collective will of India to fight against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and the support received from the international community in this endeavor. They also appreciated the diaspora's role in strengthening India's friendship with Liberia. Another all-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Kani Moi interacted with members of the Indian community in Spain on Sunday. The delegation conveyed a powerful message to the diaspora, emphasizing that India remains unshakable and united in its fight against terrorism, which threatens global peace and humanity. The delegation also interacted with Arturo Fernandez Alvarez, a Spanish businessman who is the survivor of the horrible terror attacks that took place in Mumbai on 26th of November 2008. Arturo joined the delegation in condemning the menace of terrorism. The multi-party parliamentary delegation leading India's global diplomatic outreach on Operation Sindoor has now reached Brazil, the biggest country in South America. Led by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the group will be conducting some very high-profile meetings in Brasilia. DD India's correspondent Shobhan Saxena reports about the delegation's arrival in Brazil.
As India's diplomatic outreach about Operation Sindoor and cross-border terrorism continues across the world, the all-party parliamentary delegation, led by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, landed in Brasilia on Sunday morning.
Well, you know, we are on a 5-country visit. We've done 3 countries already, Guyana, Panama, and Colombia. And we are now in Brazil, though Sunday, it's now 1 a.m. on Sunday as we've landed, is actually a day of rest, which I think the team has earned after a fairly hectic program since we left. We then have meetings in Brazil all day, and then we proceed to Washington, which will be the final leg of our journey.
In their meetings with Brazilian leaders, the Indian delegation will brief them about the terror attack on unarmed civilians in Pahalgam on 22nd of April. The delegation, which includes MPs of several political parties, will convey India's strong national consensus in the fight against cross-border terrorism. The MPs will also reaffirm the country's message of Operation Sindoor.
On the whole, we've had some very good results. My team has been fully participating in everything. We are all equal participants in this venture. And here in Brazil, we're looking forward to having some very solid, constructive discussions. Brazil is a major power in the region. It's a BRICS partner of ours. We've elevated our relationship to a strategic partnership going back to 2006. So it's a country that really matters to us. And though they're not currently on the Security Council, we felt keeping them fully abreast of our position and continuing to keep the dialogue channels open is very important for us.
Arriving in Brazil's capital from Bogota in Colombia, the leader of the high-level delegation said the meetings in South America have been very, very successful so far.
In both Guyana and Panama, which are Security Council members, there was tremendous understanding and support for our mission and expressions of solidarity for our fight against terror. In Colombia, there had unfortunately been a statement issued during Operation Sindoor, which actually condoled the Pakistani victims rather than saying anything about India. So we had that rectified. We met with the government, and I'm very pleased to say that they have withdrawn that statement, and instead they have issued something very positive and supportive.
During their stay in Brasilia, the delegation will meet members of the Indian community, interact with the media, and on Tuesday, before flying to Sao Paulo on the way to the US, the Indian delegation will pay floral tributes at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi here in Brasilia. This is Shovan Saxena for DD India in Brasilia, Brazil.
President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña Pelocios, will pay a state visit to India from 2nd to 4th of June. The visiting president will be accompanied by a high-level delegation. The state visit of President Peña will be his first visit to India and only the second visit of a president of Paraguay. During the visit, President Peña will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and review the entire gamut of bilateral relations. The visiting president will also meet his Indian counterpart, Draupadi Murmu. The state visit of President Peña will provide an opportunity for the leaders to undertake a comprehensive review of bilateral ties as well as to discuss regional and international issues of mutual interest. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is on a 3-day visit to France to strengthen economic ties and explore investment opportunities with global partners. Piyush Goyal held meetings with CEOs of Vicat and Total Energies, who showed strong interest in expanding investments in India. He expressed gratitude to France for its support in the fight against terrorism and also emphasized on strengthening the bilateral ties. Goyal held productive bilateral talks on trade, market access and strategic partnerships and is scheduled to meet executives from major firms like Renault, EDF and L'Oreal, highlighting India's commitment to deepening global economic engagement.
France is playing an important role in many of our technological collaborations, be it in the space sector, defense sector, precision engineering, artificial intelligence. We also have a very strong collaboration with France on insurance and financial services. The recent agreement to establish the Yuga Yugin Bharat Museum, the world's largest museum, when at Kartavya Path, is something we are doing in collaboration with the Louvre, the museum in Paris. So all in all, it's a very wide-ranging subject of engagement with France.
The southwest monsoon's dramatic onset in northeast India has left a trail of destruction, claiming multiple lives and impacting over thousands of people across 5 states. Over the past 3 days, relentless rains have unleashed flash floods and landslides in Assam, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur and Tripura, collapsing buildings, washing away roads and displacing thousands. The Met Department has issued red alerts across the region, warning of further downpour that could intensify the crisis. Rescue efforts are being hindered by continuous rains and damaged infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Met Department has also forecast continued weather disturbances, including thunderstorms and rainfall across Delhi and NCR. And this will happen till Tuesday. Delhi woke up on Monday to partly cloudy skies and a minimum temperature of 27.2 degrees Celsius, just slightly above the seasonal average. This continues a pattern of abnormally mild conditions in May. The capital has so far been spared by intense heat waves typically associated with this time of the year. DD India's Subina Roy joins us from Northeast India's Dibrugarh. Subina, good morning. We'll told our viewers how the monsoon there has left a trail of destruction. You tell us, how has the morning begun? What more can you add?
Yeah, good morning, Preeti. As you can see, the weather is cloudy out here. The IMD has predicted red alert for today also in almost all the 6 northeastern states, which includes Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, and yellow alert in Arunachal Pradesh. Heavy rains are predicted in districts of Hailakandi, Sribhumi, Kachar even today, and they are expected to receive around more than 20 centimeter rainfall. The southwest monsoon, the deep depression which was created near the Bay of Bengal has extended over to the northeastern states to create havoc by landslides. The rains have created havoc and landslides have occurred, and it has claimed 5 deaths have been confirmed in Assam. Now, talking about the effects, Preeti, the Brahmaputra Valley, many of the rivers are going above danger level. The Brahmaputra at Niyamati Ghat and Dibrugarh is flowing above danger level. Then we have Kopili River, Katakal, Barak River, Kushiari. Then if we talk about the population which is affected, like more than 1.4 lakh people have been affected in Assam. Over 3,500 hectares of crop area have been affected. Talking about the rescue measures, yesterday 14 people were evacuated by helicopter in the Assam-Arunachal border at Promjit River. Apart from that, NDRF, SDRF teams are rescuing people. Yesterday, around 417 people were rescued to go. Apart from that, there were 20 medical teams who were deployed across the state. Then apart from that, Preeti, yesterday the CM had tweeted for people to keep indoors and avoid going to low-lying areas. At many roads have been destroyed by the devastating floods. Many national highways have been affected, due to which communication from district to other or interstate communication has been affected. Yesterday, also earlier in the day, the Union Home Minister also called upon the chief ministers of various states and has assured full assistance from the central government.
All right, Subina, thank you for joining in with that overall update from Dibrugarh. An Indigo flight from Raipur to Delhi experienced turbulence due to a dust storm, prompting the pilot to climb up again when the aircraft was about to touch down at the Delhi airport. Flight 6E6313 landed safely at Delhi airport after making many circles in the air. The video of the incident also went viral on social media. The pilot announced that wind speed was up to 80 kilometers per hour and he discontinued the approach and climbed back till the weather cleared. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. Asian share markets made a wary start to the week on Monday as investors navigated the shifting sands of White House tariff policy while awaiting the key US jobs data and a widely expected cut in European interest rates. There was little obvious reaction to President Donald Trump's threat late on Friday to double tariffs on imported steel and aluminium to 50% beginning on June 4th, a sudden twist that drew the ire of European Union negotiators. S&P 500 eased 0.2% and Nasdaq futures lost 0.3%. The S&P climbed 6.2% in May, while the Nasdaq rallied 9.6% on the hopes that final import levies will be far lower than the initial sky-high levels. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon is sounding the alarm on a potential U.S. debt market crisis, citing the Trump administration's economic policies as a major contributor. He warned that the rising debt levels could lead to skyrocketing interest rates and market disruptions, making it more expensive to finance U.S. debt if investors lose confidence in the dollar. Whereas U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent downplayed his concerns, noting that while he is worried about debt levels, the deficit is expected to decrease over the next 2 years. Bessent emphasized that addressing the deficit is a long-term process, aiming to bring it down over the next 4 years and leave the country in good shape by 2028. From business, we now turn focus to sports. Shreyas Iyer led from the front with an unbeaten 87 of 41 as Punjab Kings booked their place in the final of IPL 2025 against Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Punjab, in fact, chased down 204 with an over to spare in the second qualifier against Mumbai. Josh Inglis led the foundation with a whirlwind 21, ball 38, smashing 20 off and over from Jasprit Bumrah. Meanwhile, Nehal Vadera also hit 48 during his 84-run stand with Shreyas. Earlier, Tilak Verma and Surya Kumar Yadav played crucial knock of 44 apiece as Mumbai posted 203 for 6 in 20 overs. Namandee's 37 of 18 balls towards the end played a huge role in helping Mumbai go past the 200-run mark. This also marks the first time Mumbai Indians have not been able to defend a score of 200 plus. World champion D. Gukesh secured a statement victory in the 6th round of Norway chess, defeating former world champion Magnus Carlsen in classical time control for the first time in his career. The Indian teenager was playing with the white pieces. He held firm under pressure and capitalized on a rare blunder by Norwegian Grandmaster in the endgame, converting it into a memorable win. Carlsen appeared to have the upper hand for much of the game, pressing from a superior position. But Gukesh defended with composure before turning the game on its head with a precise counter-attack as Carlsen faltered under the tournament's increment time control designed to resemble rapid play. The score between Gukesh and Carlsen in the tournament is now 1 each. From chess, let's get to tennis now. We'll get 2 updates on the ongoing French Open Grand Slam. Defending men's champion Carlos Alcaraz overcame America's Ben Shelton 7-6, 6-3, 4-6, 6-4 for his 100 tour level win on clay to reach the French Open quarterfinals for a 4th successive year on Sunday. Italian Lorenzo Musetti saw off 10th seed Dane Holger Rune in 4 sets to advance to the quarters on Monday morning in Paris. Up next for Musetti is Francis Tiafoe. Defending women's champion Iga Swiatek survived a first set scare to battle past Elena Rybakina 1-6, 6-3, 7-5. Meanwhile, Ukrainian 13th seed Elena Svitolina beat last year's runner-up and 4th seed Jasmine Paolini for 4-6, 7-6, 6-1. And world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka advanced past American 6th seed Amanda Anisimova 7-5, 6-3 to block a spot in the quarters. The top seed will face Olympic champion Zheng Qinwen of China next. French President Emmanuel Macron held a reception for Paris Saint-Germain at the Élysée Palace on Sunday after they won the Champions League for the first time in their history. PSG coach Luis Enrique, along with the whole squad and the club's owner Nasser Al-Khelaifi, were welcomed to cheers and applause as they put the trophy on the stage. Macron also strongly condemned the clashes of the previous day in which more than 500 people were arrested by police during the celebrations and 2 people were reported dead and 192 were injured. Earlier on Sunday, Paris Saint-Germain held an open-top bus parade with thousands of fans lining the Champs-Élysées to celebrate with the team. With that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.